everyone, and welcome to episode 10 of The Best You, a coaching podcast. It's Gary here again, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you very, very much for joining me for this latest episode, and I hope you're all doing well and investing in whatever work you've committed to investing in to get you closer to the best version of yourself. That's us in early February already, and I really have no idea where the time goes. Honestly, I don't. It is said that time flies when you're having fun, and that's absolutely most certainly the case for me these days with my newfound adventure into entrepreneurship. But even then, it still seems to be going a little bit quicker than maybe I would like sometimes. I guess there's a little level of discomfort there that I have to get a little bit used to as well. So yeah, we're in double figures now, episode 10, as I mentioned there, and it actually took me back to a few years back when I started recording the NARSA podcast. And for regular listeners to this podcast, you'll know that the NARSA podcast is the North American Ranger Supporters Association podcast that we started a number of years back. And I remember at the time saying, let's start this and let's see where it goes. Who knows what it's going to look like? Who knows if there's going to be an audience for it? Who knows if I'm going to be any good at it? And all the general questions that you would maybe have when you're starting something new. And I remember saying to my love that, listen, let's do 10. Let's persevere and we'll do 10. That will be 10 weeks. And we'll see if it's crap, we'll just bin it. If it's relatively okay, we'll keep it going. And now, as I sit here, we're at over 170 episodes of the NARSA Weekly Update podcast, and I've celebrated the milestones along the way, and I think that's the key part of why I mention it now. And getting to 10 is a milestone for me, and I look forward to continuing the journey with you as we go forward, and hopefully we can get to 20 and 25 and then 50 and then 75 and so on and so forth, and we'll see how the content evolves as we move forward together. So what you can expect in this episode is we're actually going to work through a book review of Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, and that was from 2020. Before that, we will go through an overview of the most recent blog, which centred around failing and failure and the topic and the feelings and the opportunities that arise from such. And before all that, I'll give you a wee bit of an overview of what my own personal journey has looked like since we last chatted. So what have I been up to since then? Well, like before, my core being, my core reason for serving and existing is my one-on-one coaching, and I've been fortunate enough to continue to do that with some regular clients. Haven't brought on any more or any new clients, I should say, but that is a bit of a work in progress, and hopefully that will change as we move forward. And based on a course I attended, it was actually by Tony Robbins. It was a free course that he put on there I guess that maybe a couple of weeks back, and it was called Tony Robbins Time to Rise Summit. And in that he talked about business operator versus business ownership. And I have probably said in some occasions in the past that I'm a small business owner, my small business being me. And the way he explained it really gave me food for thought, because essentially he was saying, not directly to me, it was a general topic he was discussing, is that when you're managing everything in your own business, like I am, with my preparation for the pod, with my recording for the pod, with all the website stuff I have to do for the pod, with the mailing list and everything that goes along with being a one-man band, I'm a business operator. I'm not a business owner. If you're a business owner, you then have an opportunity to get into strategy, to have other people contribute to your success. And I'm not saying I do absolutely everything on my own, but there's more of a structure there, more other people, other hands to help going forward. So it makes me, I'm going to change my language, I guess, is probably what I'm saying as I go forward, and I'm a small business operator is what I'm doing, and I love it, I really do. I've talked about journaling over the last while, and I had talked about my delinquency on my weekly journaling, which was okay. I wasn't beating myself up about it. It was information in and of itself as to why I wasn't quite getting to the to the routine. I had the routine before the festive period, and then I kind of fell away from it. But however, I have substituted that now with daily journaling, believe it or not. So struggle to do it on a weekly basis, and then I'm more in the zone, in the groove, and really benefiting from doing it on a daily basis. I actually, most of the time, I do a morning journal and an evening journal, and it's all in the Growth Day app, which I mentioned on the last pod that I had subscribed to. And it's fantastic. It asks some prompted questions. It gives me an opportunity to plan somewhat in the morning, with a degree of reflection, and then in the evening to essentially measure, review, evaluate how things went for that particular day, to get myself set up for the next day. And it's very, very easy to do, and it's not as onerous as I thought it was going to be. It's still a little bit statusy, still a little bit, kind of tasky, but there's a little bit more feeling in there. Why is that important to me? Who do I want to show up for today? Why is that important? If I was my own coach, who would I, what advice would I give myself? And what would I say to myself? Coaches don't give advice, of course. But yeah, I've been really enjoying that. I've also continued with posting of the 30-day challenge videos that I did through the mastermind community onto LinkedIn, and I believe I'm on the second last week this week, and still getting some nice traction, some nice comments now and again too. And you know what I did actually? I experienced some, coming back to the business operator part, I experienced some challenges on my email distribution list. It's not a large list at all right now, but I'm very, very appreciative of everyone who's there. And I noticed that I got a few additions over the last couple of weeks, which is always very exciting. And then I went in and realised that I had dropped by, I can't remember the number, but it was a number, it was like 5 or 6 or 7 or something. And I thought, oh wow, so okay, I go in, try and find out who it is. And some of them have been in some way essentially frozen, because there's been a couple of attempts made at the corporate server to have the email delivered, and then it didn't get delivered, and then all of a sudden that I get put on some sort of hold list where the people are not actually receiving the emails. So that's a bit concerning. Something, it's good information in and of itself. I've reached out to each of those folks, and you know what I did? I actually emailed every one of them, and then realised they're not going to get the email, Gary. You're going to have to find some other way to do that. So I've reached out to everyone via other means to say, look, can you have a look at your side and see if there's anything that you see, so that I can make that change and get you the content that I want to get you. Of course, that's the main and most important thing. So yeah, lessons learned on that. I'm not exactly sure how it's all going to unfold, but yeah, good information in and of itself. I did mention the Time to Rise Summit, which was essentially kind of, what was that, 3 Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 kind of half days, a wee bit more than half days, maybe 4.5 hours or so each day, of Tony Robbins and some of his trusted friends and colleagues just giving out some sage, fantastic business and life information. He ended up doing a bonus on the Monday as well, because there was some things that he had seen from videos that people were posting on the Facebook page and questions that he had received, where he thought that there was maybe some things unresolved, so he put on another bonus session. Of course, what he's doing is he's there is an element of sales there, which is unashamed, and I don't mind it at all, where he's saying, look, we're scratching the surface here, come to the power within, which is his next kind of offering on his value chain, and get some more learnings and such. I'm not going to do that one because I have enough on the go right now on when that next course is going ahead on. But I believe that Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, Mastermind, Brendan Bouchard will be part of my ongoing growth for quite some time, and I'll certainly join that at some point in the future. I also attended Growth Day's monthly LA seminar, and it was a live event on the 1st of February, virtual for me, but there was also people in the room in Los Angeles, and it was fantastic. It really was. The time management could do with a bit of work, and I say that as a guy who is a constant work in progress on time management. But there was some great topics discussed. There was stress and various other things, self-worth and such. Some great discussions, some great speakers, and just generally great entertainment. I just love absorbing that, and there's something a wee bit more dynamic and a little bit more entertaining, quite frankly, on the live events too. So yeah, really enjoyed that. I finished my first teaching gig of 2024 through Mount Royal University, got all the marking done, all the grading done, and all the grades submitted. So I'm done with that, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to my next one whenever that comes up. And through Mastermind, the Mastermind community, I won a coaching prize. I am a winner. And it was a group coaching prize through the ongoing Launchpad Accelerator program that I'm going through Mastermind, where if you update all your journal and all your bits and pieces you have to do, you get a certain amount of points, and I was one of the top 10 points awardees. So we got a chance to go with one of the experienced coaches and really work through some social media, some marketing information, sharing some ideas and such, and it was just brilliant. I was very fortunate to win it and absolutely absorbed every single bit of information that I got from it too. I also subscribed to a tool called Loom, Loom, if you haven't heard of it. And what their main marketing strategy is you don't have to have a meeting all the time. Why don't you just do a Loom video for your team, and you can do a whole bunch of different things. It could be you on a screen, it could be you or just your voice, it could be you on the bottom left hand corner of the screen with the say for example the PowerPoint presentation or whatever it is you want to share. And I love it. I really do love it. I think I'm going to start using that, possibly even maybe for the podcasts going forward, as a wee bit of a different opportunity to consume the information that I share on the podcast. But very, very enjoyable, very easy to use, and just a different media to be able to connect with an audience, because not everyone likes audio, not everyone likes video, and some people, of course, just like to read and the blogs and such. So yeah, it was good learning, and I'm just expanding my opportunities to learn about things like that too. And books on the go, I have mentioned the last couple of times that I've been working through Coaching for Performance by Sir John Whitmore, and it's been quite slow, and to this point to get to a bit of momentum, but I've actually started it now, which is a bit of progress, and it's very, very well written, of course, very well laid out as well. I think once I really get into it, I'm going to smash my way through it fairly easily. So hopefully at some point in the not too distant future, you'll have an overview of what that entails as well, and I'm really looking forward to just getting in. It's a bit more practical. It's almost kind of like a how-to, which is a bit different from some of the other things that I've been reading recently. So that's okay. And just last night, actually, I had a bit of an issue, honestly, with sleeping over the last couple of days, and it's because it's not because I thought it was because I was reading a business book when I was in bed. And I thought maybe that's just a bit too much absorption in the evenings, and I need something a wee bit later. So just last night I substituted the business book for the autobiography by Sir Elton John called Me. And I think that's from a couple of years back. I know that I bought it quite some time ago, and I just have never cracked the spine on it. So I'm reading that now, and you get lessons from everything that you read. So I'm sure there's going to be some lessons and some learnings in there as well. So looking forward to getting through that one. I'm just in the very, very early stages. Okay, so on to a brief supporting summary of the blog number 11, which was entitled How to Fail and Not Be a Failure. And how this one came about, actually, it was quite some time ago. I used to, when I was physically in the classroom, I used to bring up some TED Talks and YouTube clips and things like that to support and enhance the learnings and the material and collateral that we were imparting to the students. And there was this one particular TED Talk that was called Listen, Learn, Then Lead, and it was given by a fellow called Stanley McChrystal, I believe General Stanley McChrystal from, I think one of the armed forces in the United States. Forgive me for not knowing exactly what one. It's been a while since I watched it, but it's back from 2011, so I mean that's 13 years ago now. And he actually said those words, they taught me how to fail and not be a failure. And it always just stuck with me. It fascinated me, the concept of that and what that would mean to different people, and including myself, of course. And from that point, that fascination turned it into, something I'd like to just investigate a little bit more. I'd like to do some research. I'd like to do some self-reflection and find out, what that means in terms of a concept or a discussion point at the very least. So I challenged, what you noticed in this particular blog, and it's probably going to be somewhat similar on this pod today as well, is that there was a lot of questions that I posed there, and I think that's a testament to the topic in and of itself, and it was quite similar to the previous blog where we were talking about mistakes and whether there was such a thing, and how you react to a mistake and how you see and observe people reacting to mistakes. So yeah, it's very, very, very similar in that guys. And I think what I'm really doing here is I'm just posing conversation points ultimately, to get to a point where hopefully we have a wee bit more expansive thinking and a bit of an opportunity to have deeper dialogue with each other. So I started off by just explaining that what is failure, and I genuinely believe that failure is kind of misunderstood, and it does often carry a negative connotation. And I just don't know that that's fair. I did put a definition in there of saying it's falling short of achieving a desired outcome or goal. And as we discussed in the previous blog, with the mistakes, there's just different ways to look at things. And I would like to challenge you to do this with failure too. And this is basically the overall theme of a lot of the content that I'm putting out, and I think that's going to be a theme as we go forward. So, I mentioned that failure is temporary. It's something that many people fear. It's inevitable if you try and push yourself. It's definitely an opportunity to grow and learn. Everything is an opportunity to grow and learn. Of course, it's a conduit to expansive thinking. It's value add feedback if you're willing to pay attention and deep dive into it. And it can be a catalyst of change, an opportunity for innovation as well. So, I mean, the main thing for me is that I think genuinely failure should not be feared or avoided. I don't, by the same token, I don't know that you run head first into it and just tally ho and all that sort of thing. But I don't think we should shy away from it either. I think being a genuine part of the conversation, being a genuine part of the planning process. I mean, that's what we used to do in risk management when I was project managing full time. Is we would do our risk assessments and we would go through the risk management process, and ultimately what we were trying to determine was what happens if we fail at a particular thing, at a particular juncture, doing a particular thing, and we would then plan for it, and then it becomes part of the general conversation. We just call it risk, but others maybe call it failure. So I went on then to say about what failure isn't or what failure is not, and it's basically any sort of reflection of your worth or abilities. It doesn't define you, who you are as a person if you fail at something. It's most certainly not the end of the world, definitely not a reason to give up, not a measurement of your future potential, and it's not an excuse. It's not an excuse for basically anything that you do, not a sign of incompetence, and certainly not 100% not a reason to get engaged in any negative self-talk. We've got enough reasons in life for that. Failure shouldn't be one of them, in my opinion. And here's a key concept that was basically a theme through the entire blog. Like, using any form of event, a positive or negative event, for anything other than experience and learning is an absolute disservice to you and to your future self, to your current self, to your future self, to your future potential. So kind of stop it, basically, is what I'm saying there. We then went on to talk about failure and success not being mutually exclusive and being very much interconnected, and absolutely considering failure as a stepping stone to success. You're essentially one step closer to where you want to be, and we did that a wee bit in some of the marketing training. You'll get 10 no's before you get a yes. So the first no should be celebrated because you're one step closer to the yes. And I love that kind of optimism. And it's often said that we will lament and think about and dissect and analyze and go over failures a lot more than we would successes. The success happens and we kind of say, yeah, that's what we planned for. We did a good job. Congratulations, everyone, and then move on. But, as I mentioned earlier there, everything that we do should be a stepping stone to success. And if it becomes a wee bit more vibrant or a little bit more visible through failures, the process should be no different. And then we talked about redefining failure, where I challenge you to think about a hero of yours who has faced some sort of failure at some juncture in their life, in their career, whatever it is. they do. And you can look at anyone at all. It's just a wee bit easier to do this if you hold the person in high esteem or with high regard. And then I challenge you to think about, like, what was their failure? What caused it? How did they actually react? How did they behave? What was the reaction from the outside world? From, if it was a famous person, if it was the press and the news and public opinion and such, how did they navigate the outcomes, and how have they used this experience to chart the path moving forward? Where are they now? And one of the things, when I was actually writing that, I was thinking I had just finished the David Beckham documentary that was on Netflix, and if you've seen that, it was fantastically well done, and he's obviously a very popular figure in the world, and not just in the football world. And I was there. I lived through the aftermath of the 1998 World Cup, when he got vilified for being sent off against Argentina, and it was awful at the time, even living through it. I mean, I was in a different country. I was in Scotland, and it was, most of this stuff was happening in England. But so to have a life experience of that, and I always admired David Beckham, and then just to see it kind of in his own words and then replayed through some of the media that was around at the time, he handled it fantastically well. He just got his head down. He worked harder than anyone else, and he let his talents, his skills, his footballing abilities, do the talking. And fantastic, representation of how to take a failure, perceived or otherwise, and use it for good, and exacerbate what your core skills are, and how you can actually move through and move forward. And now he's a big deal in the MLS and in world football in general. But yeah, consider that for people you admire. There's more information there than you probably think there is. And then failure is feedback. If you haven't failed at anything, you've probably not tried, or certainly not tried very hard at anything at all. And it made me think here, through my coaching training, we dealt with a thing called GALES, and GALES is an acronym for Gremlins, Assumptions, Interpretations, and Limiting Beliefs. And the Gremlins part are basically the voice or voices in your head that's your negative self-talk that I talked about earlier, that says, don't stop, don't do this, just stay where you are, you're going to embarrass yourself, what's the point, why do you even bother trying, like whatever not so positive stuff the voices in your head say. Now, the key that I always go through with every single client that I have is, despite what they actually literally say to you, their whole job is to protect you. Their whole job is to make sure that you are going to be okay. So they'll do anything to do that. And that makes me think of, like, well, I'm just going to stay here. I'm just going to listen to that voice. I'm okay doing what I'm doing. And if you're not going to push yourself, if you're not going to progress yourself, if you're not going to try and grow, then the chances of you failing is probably much more limited than it would be if you're willing to put yourself out there, as they say. So, I like to look at failure as not as an indicator of defeat, but rather absolutely an opportunity for improvement. And it absolutely can be liberating once you kind of have that shift in mindset, if you were indeed looking at failure as a negative in the first place. Talked about failure and innovation, and just basically failure being a key component of the innovation process, because you have more information on what you did, what worked, what didn't work, why, how, and probably what you're going to do next, too. So, and then overcoming the fear of failure. We don't attach any self-worth or identity to the failure. The failure is just an event that happened. Talked about a little bit about perfectionism and the unrealistic expectations that we sometimes place on ourselves, negative evaluations from yourself and from others, and the natural human aversion to experiencing loss was what we had there. And kind of finished off with a little bit of a thing that just ended up coming to fruition as I walked through the content to try and get to summary, which was, basically in anything, not just with failure, but in life, stop, analyze, learn, and grow. I think it's in a sequence. I don't, so it's not a very good acronym that I can use, but in terms of stopping, just figure out what happened, reframe, set some realistic expectations going forward, analyze the situation that you're faced with now, recognize what's actually happening and what you can do about it, learn. Don't make this all for naught. Make it actually genuinely worthwhile, and do things to push yourself through this. And then from a grow perspective, just essentially learn, use those learnings, get better using all the tools, systems and supports that you have available to you. So yeah, as I said, there was lots of questions posed in there, and not so much maybe on this pod today, but certainly in the blog. And just think about how you react to failure, or how you have reacted to failure up to and including the moment that you're literally listening to my voice right now. And then think about how well that has served you. Did you go to deflection, to accusation, to blame, or did you absorb it? Did you take it all on yourself, even if that wasn't even true or not even the case? Think about what's going to serve you better going forward, what's going to serve your community better, your family better, your organisation better. And then I put the Coach Gaz challenge at the end there, and just to challenge you to think about your most recent failure and what you did about it. It's almost an extension of just what I said there, and what did you glean from that? If you haven't actually done the exercise, I would encourage you to actually sit down and do that. And what was the mistake? How did I react? Was I my best self? You maybe put some scaling parts in there, 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst. Did you provide yourself enough space and grace to glean the actual value add information that would help you go through the stop, analyze, learn and grow process? If yes, that's fantastic. If not, please get in touch. I can help you, or re-listen to this pod, and reread the blog, or read it for the first time if you haven't done so. So yeah, that was how to fail and not be a failure. I'll quickly go through the book report of Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, and it was from, as I mentioned, I think 2020, so not too old. I had it as my kind of fun book that I was reading when I'm going through my business readings as well, but it was on I probably got it fairly close to when it came out, and it's been on my bookshelf literally for a number of years. And then Matthew McConaughey turns up in the mastermind community with a course attached to the book, and he does these things called inner circles, which is a kind of monthly overview session with the main guy, Dean Graciosi, and the guy's just an interesting character, I think, and what he does is essentially he tells the story where he's been journaling for 40 years, something like that, and then he said to his wife at some point, listen, look at all these journals that I have. At some point when I'm not here anymore, someone's going to have to go through them and chronicle my life, and hopefully that would be interesting and educational to whomever's going to read it. And his wife kind of went, why don't you do that? Lazy bones sort of thing. So he then started to write, and had never done writing like that in terms of writing a book before, and he just went into isolation. I believe it was in Arizona, I can't remember exactly, I might be wrong on that, and just went through his entire history of his journals and put it together in a book. And it's essentially his memoir. He's working on another one right now, I believe, so I don't know if the second one is going to be a bit more pointed on a particular topic, or maybe just more of the same, because condensing 40 odd years into X amount of pages, there's probably a lot that's left out. But basically he talks about his life, he talks about a very colourful childhood, and an interesting I won't spoil it, but his parents were very, very interesting in terms of their relationship and in terms of their parenting style. And I'm not one to judge, I promise I'm not, but very, very colourful. He talks about his career and how he kind of fell into it, and essentially just his personal journey, and all the characters and all the experiences that he had along the way. And he uses the traffic light. Green lights is essentially analogous to the traffic light methodology, where it's an opportunity to explore that in life, that you need to experience some of the amber and the red lights in your journey to then identify, experience and enjoy the green lights when they come along. And it's essentially structured around his personal philosophies and experience, centered around green lights as well. So there's 8 parts to the book, and the first one is outlaw logic. Number 2, finding your frequency. Number 3, dirt roads and autobahns. Number 4, the art of running downhill. Number 5, turn the page. Number 6, the arrow doesn't seek the target draws the arrow. Number 7, be brave, take the hill. and number 8, Live Your Legacy Now. And some of the key highlights, I won't go through each of the chapters, but just basically embracing the green lights. Here he encourages you to recognise and appreciate the green lights in your life when they come along. And the moments of in a green light in his perspective is moments of alignment, opportunity, growth. He shares personal anecdotes of his own green lights, such as his decision to pursue acting in a more serious way, mostly against his family's wishes, which of course led to the successful career that he's enjoyed thus far. And then he talks about lessons from adversity, reflecting on the amber or the yellow and the red lights and the challenges and setbacks that he's faced. He emphasises the importance of learning from these experiences and turning them into opportunities for growth. See the theme here, myself and my man Matthew are aligned. And he talks about time living in Australia when I believe he was still a teenager, a very young man anyway, and he faced financial struggles, he faced loneliness. He lived for the majority of the time there with a bit of an eccentric family, I think is probably the fairest way to say that. And then the ultimate lessons and valuable life lessons that he learned, about resilience and self-reliance when he was there in the early stages of his adult life. He talks about authenticity and identity and explores, authenticity, self-discovery, and urging everyone to stay true to themselves and embrace their own individuality. And he shares his own stories in and around that too. And his decision, kind of laterally to start to turn down more lucrative romantic comedy movie roles, which is kind of what he established himself in Hollywood as, in favour of projects that more aligned with his values and his interests. And very brave decision to do that. Talks about living with purpose, where he reflects on the importance of living with purpose, living with intention, and again encourages ourselves as readers to define our own values, our own priorities, and to pursue our passions completely and wholeheartedly. And in this part he talks about his dedication to philanthropy and environmental activism, and highlights the fulfillment that comes from making a positive impact on the world. And then finding joy and gratitude. And here is when Matthew emphasizes the importance of genuine joy, finding the joy in life's simple pleasures. And he shares anecdotes of moments of joy and gratitude, such as the simple things of spending time with his family and experiencing the beauty of nature. And these moments, he argues, are the genuine, true green lights that sustain us through the journey of life and the challenges that we may face. There's lots and lots of quotes, lots and lots of examples that I think are directly from his journaling. One looks like a post-it, the other one looks like a ripped out page, another one looks like scribbled on the back of a napkin and things, and that provides a wee bit of an overall entertaining approach to consuming the book, to reading the book. Some of it, I have to admit, I couldn't really see that well, because you're changing from one font to another. One page is black with white writing, the next one's white with black writing, and things like that. But entertaining, it's not so much a page turner in terms of a suspense or a thriller or anything like that. But you don't know what you're going to get every time you turn the page, and that's kind of cool. And it just offers, I think, a candid and insightful reflection on life, filled with his own personal stories and his own wisdom that he's gained, and with the hope of inspiring folks through the inspirations that he's had. It was great. He discusses his travel, his dog, his experiences, his hair loss, yes, believe it or not, his hair gain, yes, believe it or not, his grasp of fame in the early days, his spirituality, his wife and kids, and it's through his storytelling, his purposeful randomness, if that makes sense. He would take certain things as signs, and then that would chart a different path for him and have him going to the four corners of the earth, so to speak, to try and make sense of the messages and signs that he thinks he's getting. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating read. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I would encourage you, if you can, to dive into the book and discover the full range of Matthew McConaughey's stories and his wisdom and his storytelling. Really, really good read. I did enjoy it, and kind of kicking myself a wee bit that it took me so long to get to it. I probably wouldn't have appreciated it the same way if I had read it before, so I'm glad that I did. Okie dokie, my friends, that will do it for this episode. I hope that this episode of the Best You, a coaching podcast, was a valuable use of your time, and that you're going to join me for more as we progress together. If you did find it valuable, I would absolutely appreciate it if you could share it with others as we continue to try and build our community of like-minded folks from across the globe. Don't forget to go check out my website at garygillen.com for more information and the blogs and previous episodes of the pod too. And until next time, my friends, please do take care of yourself. All the very best to you on your journey, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay, cheerio now.